How's it going, guys? Jono here. We're back at the Overland series. This time we're servicing our vehicle. All thanks to Ryco. These guys are awesome. Definitely check them out. Maintaining and servicing a four-wheel drive is actually what's going to keep you on the tracks for longer, so it's kind of imperative that we need to be doing this. I'm going to go through and do a full service on mine, which includes oil, of course, along with the oil filter. Do a full oil change. We've got the air filter we're going to replace there for clean, fresh air, and a fuel filter so that we get nice, clean fuel coming through too. Alongside this, we're going to need an oil wrench to be able to pull those that old filter off. I'm also going to do all the drive belts as well. These ones are looking damn near dead and squealing away at me, so time to do them. You're also going to need a toolkit. What you're going to need though is just simply a few spanners or a socket set. It's going to get you through the job. Easy. So that's step one. Make sure you got the right tools. Step two is starting the drain process. Let's kick into that. So we're going to start off by popping the bonnet, removing that top fuel cap. This means it can breathe when we go to drain the oil. And of course, we want to make sure that the vehicle is nice and level. If it's sitting on a side or any angle, then the oil in the sump is going to be off camber. We need it to be nice and flat so it'll all drain out where it's meant to. Easy. Let's get underneath, drain this oil. Now Toyotas are really nice because they were smart enough to use the same similar bolt size for everything. So 14 down on the sump here. Get your drain pan all lined up and crack it. Always best to do this when your oil is warm. It always runs a lot smoother. Oops, a little bit of there. Now we can sit that up there, let that drain for a bit. Now you're going to want to give it a few minutes, maybe 15-20 minutes to fully drain the engine of all its oil. Even those little dribbles at the end can be contaminants for your next load that's going in. So while that's doing that, we're going to do the nice easy job of swapping out the air filter. This is going to mean we get nice clean air into the engine, keeps our engine healthy. If you've got a stock airbox, then swapping an air filter is just super easy stuff. Pop the four caps, you'll find it just lifts off, and there's your filter. Go through and inspect it, make sure, just to get an idea of what's actually going through your engine. This isn't actually too bad. There's a few sort of dirty bits, but overall, not a lot going through. Chuck that aside, pull a new one out. If you've got something a bit more aftermarket, you may need oil or grease, but of course, you'll know that because you put it in there. There's a new one, nice and clean. Go through, seat that in. And refit the box on top. Done. The drive belts are a bit more of an annoyance to do. Toyota here, well, the 3RZ here has three of them. One to drive each individual accessory for some weird reason. The old Jeep did the amazing thing of one belt does everything. That's a brilliant idea. So if you're changing belts on a Toyota, you're actually gonna have to go through and undo, for example, the one at the front here that drives the power steering. I'm having to undo the pulley, well, the actual idler on the side here, as well as then crank back this bolt here, which then lowers the idler down to loosen the belt. Put a new belt on, crank it all back up again. There's our first belt out. If you have a look, you'll always be able to tell whether they're good or bad based on the number of cracks in them. Hopefully you can see that this one is pretty damn bad. So this was well overdue a replacement. So that can be chucked. Well, what we'll do though is we'll pull these ones out. We'll try and find some numbers on here and match that to one of these ones. Easy stuff. This one was even starting to shred a little bit. So if you see that on your belt, replace it. Worst thing that can happen is of course blow one of these while off-road and you lose your power steering, lose your AC, lose all sorts. AC is probably not a big deal. Well, damn it. Right, well, the last few adjustments done, drive belts are changed. Now the oil's drained, next step is to do the oil filter. If you can see with me, some are really tucked in a nice easy position, some just simply are not. So we'll get a wrench onto that. It's actually still accessible with my hand there. Others though are just really easy. So find your filter, crack it with the filter wrench. Now watch it though, there's going to be a lot of excess oil come out. I don't really know how I'm going to get this out of here. Because is it going to fit? It's not really going to fit through there. So I pulled the oil filter out. Now what made me think that I don't really trust the service on this thing is the fact that one, this is a genuine Toyota filter when it was done not at a genuine Toyota dealer, so them having to source parts is a bit weird. Two, the fact it was stuck on there so much of actually trying to get it off bent the crap out of the filter, which can happen, but that was on there tight. So skeptical. Happy I'm servicing it, so we'll dump this one, put the new one on. So here's our new filter from Ryco. You can go to any parts store, super cheap auto sort of thing, be able to pick one of these up, take the plastic off the top if we can. She's good to go on. Now one thing we needed to be doing is just run your finger along the top of the seal there with some oil. You could use old stuff, it still does the same job. All we're doing is just breaking that seal from the rubber so it doesn't vulcanize to the metal. That then means we can screw it on tightly and undo it easily. Easy stuff. The way I took the filter out, it only came out because I bent the crap out of the filter, so I can't get mine back in there that way, but it looks like there is a bit of a gap at the top here. So we'll just have to really think ingeniously. Kind of like doing surgery without seeing anything. But there we go, she's going on. Sorry, this is probably not invigorating to look at. And my hands are all oily, so that ain't gonna go any further just yet. You wanna do it up hands tight, pretty much. And then back a quarter. Because as it heats up, all the metal in there is going to expand, it's going to get really hard on it, and of course that heat of heating up and cooling down, that transition is eventually going to sort of seal things in place. So, filter on, fill it up with oil. Always remember, put your bung plug back in first before you fill it up though. That can be a very awkward mess on the workshop floor. Luckily, good old guys at Repco, of course, can actually, they have their little panel up on the side of the wall there. You go through, select your vehicle, and it tells you all the stuff you need. So I found out I needed 5.6 litres of 10W50, so here we go. If you find you're getting that gloopiness where it's trying to breathe, if you turn it on at the side, usually you find it runs a lot smoother. Now when filling your vehicle, you want to be careful not to overfill it or underfill it. So keep a close eye on your dipstick. There'll be two markers in there. There will be both a low and a full, and that gap in the middle there is where you want to be. That gap in the middle is usually about 1 litre. So if I'm filling this up to 5 and it takes 5.6 litres, it should be sitting right on the edge there. So right now, without starting the vehicle, I can see that I'm just above the full mark. Let's turn this one over, let it run for a couple of minutes, we'll test it again. Take your dipstick out, dry it off completely, all the way to the bottom, and that's going to be your level. Right now we're sitting at just, oh, you're going to focus? Right now we're sitting at about halfway, so we can probably add about 200-300 mils and be quite happy on the full line there. And we're good, sitting just on the fill mark. So, we'll throw the cap back on. That is our engine service done. The next thing we're going to go through and do is replace the fuel filter. I don't know when this one's been done, for very much it could have been the original one for 300,000 kilometers ago. So thanks to Ryco here, we're going to go through and replace that fuel filter as well. Again, good old Toyota. It's engineers and mechanics don't seem to work together. So tucked right underneath the intake manifold here, we have our fuel filter. Let's do it. A bit fiddly, but we got there. 2 bolts hold the mount on, and then 2 bolts, of course, hold the fuel lines on. So we got it out. Here it is. Finally, she's actually not too bad, but the color of fuel that came out of there, gross. So we have to back this bolt off and throw the new one in there. It's actually not too bad in the end. Oh, there we go. Brown disgustingness. Gross. Now, luckily, the Ryco filter is also supplied with copper washers for each bolt end. Because of course the fuel line bolt has a hole that goes through it so the fuel can feed in and out the bottom end. So you need copper washers on either side to be able to clamp in. Once they're used, that's it. So luckily the Ryco one comes with 2 more sets of copper washers that we can put in place. Now all filters are going to have a direction of flow. The oil filter, it's got 1 screw on, but it actually flows internally. The air filter, of course, air comes in one end, flows to the other end. Both of those are pretty self-explanatory. One to take notice with though is this one, which has a little flow arrow underneath saying that the flow channels this way. So I need to be making sure that I go put it back in the same way I took it out. If I put it in reverse, it's just going to not even filter, screw things up. Before you do go putting your fuel filter in, much like mine, well, if it's like mine here, it'll actually come with these plastic caps on top. This is of course to make sure that it stays clean on the inside. So before you go installing it, make sure you pop them off so you can actually screw your bolt into place. So that's it, a basic engine service done. A little bit more than basic though. We've gone through and done the engine oil and the engine filter, so now she's all prepped and ready for those adventuring days. Gone through and done the fuel filter. This is of course to make sure I get clean fuel ready for more high-powered explosions. The oil filter, I'm glad I did it because the old filter, well, she came out looking pretty brown and disgusting. So glad that's done. And the air filter as well, we've gone through and done that too, just to make sure we're getting clean, fresh air into our engine. I've also gone through and greased everything, keep all the U-joints nice and greased so they're good for the trips. And while also having the bonnet popped, we've gone through and checked all our extra fluids as well. Things like brakes, water, washer, and clutch. Easy stuff, guys. If you have any questions, fire them down in the comments below. Of course, you can find all your Ryco filters at your local Super Cheap Auto or even your Repco. Now the oil as well, that old oil, we're going to have to dispose of that happily. Now Super Cheap Autos throughout the country tend to have oil bins, so rock along with your old oil there and they'll quite happily take it off your hands. Wicked guys, like for more content, subscribe for more content, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.